right, ready?
Always.
Begin ignition sequence. 20.
Oh, God.
19.
Now I remember.
18.
What?
Where is it?
17.
What?
16.
We can't lift off without it.
15,
Jordy, we've got to abort.
14.
No, wait, I
13,
found it.
12. 11. 10. 9. 8.
Let's
7,
rock and roll.
6.
Welcome to Deep Space Pride, a gay Star Trek podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Thurlow, and with me is my co-host, Johnson Lee.
Hey, Mike. How are you doing today?
Hey, Johnson. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Great. Well, here we are. We are recording episode 0. This is our introduction to the world, all about Deep Space Pride. This is pretty exciting. We've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, actually, we've been doing this for 5 months. 4.5 months.
Four and a half.
We started in March, right?
Yeah, we started in March. Yes.
Yeah.
March 2020 for those of you who might be listening in the future sometime. Right after, about 2 weeks after we meaning the most of the country, but we in New York City went into lockdown.
Yeah, and we basically decided that we needed to do something productive with our time.
Right,
So,
exactly.
Why not start a podcast?
Why not, right? So yeah, four plus months ago we started, and here we are. We are now it's official. Now it's been announced. Now it's out there to the world, and here we are talking about it and telling.
Yeah, and we've actually recorded already a dozen episodes, and we finally decided that it was time to do our intro episode so that people can hear about who we are and what we're here to do.
Right, exactly. So we are coming to you live / recorded from New York City, right?
Yes.
And we're recording this on August 4th, so just a couple of days before the latest Star Trek series Lower Decks premieres, which is really exciting. So this will be out in time for new watchers of Lower Decks to hopefully find us. And
we'll be in the midst of, as CBS All Access is telling you, 23 weeks of Star Trek, which will take us through the end of the year, which is insane.
But also extremely exciting, because if this year doesn't need a smash bang up, really exciting ending, I don't know what does.
Oh, so basically you're saying that the Discovery season 3 finale better deliver, otherwise it's over.
I mean, that is a strong opinion, but yes, I would love, because you know what, it'll probably be at least a year and a half before we see them again.
Oh, who knows? Or who knows when we're going to get more Star Trek after Discovery season 3.
Right, exactly. With all the shutdowns. But we do know that there are some exciting things coming out. Star Trek Prodigy and Nickelodeon kids animated Star Trek series will be launching in 2021. Strange New Worlds will be hopefully recording in 2021 so that they can maybe be released by a year from now or the end of the year.
I'm hoping that end of 2021 we can see Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, that would be great. But I mean, they are really setting us all up for year-round Star Trek once all of these series kind of get going, and also when the world kind of reopens, right?
Yeah.
But I have been seeing on some social media that some TV shows and some productions have started opening up. Nothing that I really can remember from a naming standpoint, but I think places are starting to gear up.
Yeah, I think it's more, from what I read, it's a little bit more like some international territories are starting to film.
Yeah.
So Netflix, for example, is getting on that bandwagon and filming internationally because they've opened up versus LA, which is basically going back into lockdown.
Right. Yeah,
So,
exactly. I mean, Toronto is definitely opening up for some recording. I think I've seen a little bit of
yeah,
that.
because Canada's fine.
Yeah. Well, the
Yeah.
other thing too, though, is the American actors are going to have trouble getting into Canada.
Oh, that's true.
So
That's
I don't,
another hurdle.
so yeah, all these hurdles to eventually in the future having a year-round Star Trek to talk about, which will keep us podcasters busy.
Yeah, totally.
Plus the
So
750 hours of Star Trek that's already been recorded.
So Mike, do you want to tell our listeners a little about who we are and what we're doing here?
Yeah.
You can start first.
Oh, thanks. Thanks so much.
Yes.
Well, let's start with why we're here. And I approached you back, I think, before we actually started recording, because it took us a little bit of time to get this together, but also two, you had to think about it,
Yes.
and so originally the genesis of this idea was for me that I listened to a few Star Trek podcasts and I really enjoy them. Obviously, we're on the Trek Geeks network, podcast network, so which we're really excited about. But so they were my entry into Star Trek fandom, as far as at least having an outlet for watching an episode of Discovery and then listening to Discovering Trek, where Bill and Dan would break down the episode. And I remember reaching out.
I didn't even know about Trek Geeks until you told me about them, because we didn't listen to the same podcast. I actually started listening to Transport Room 3, which is another complete different Star Trek podcast, which is a spinoff of IGN. And I've been listening to that one for a few years. And then you told me about Trek Geeks only in the past couple of months, when you had started to approach Bill and Dan about just getting some advice. And I was like, oh, what's this? Another Star Trek podcast to add to my queue. So there it is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But we were both listening to obviously different podcasts, and we both enjoy what we listen to. But for me, at least, there was something missing. And I think that was a voice from an LGBTQIA perspective where we could talk about Star Trek. So that's originally why I approached you about that. And also because we've met about a year ago. We were introduced through my boyfriend, a good friend of yours. And that's how this friendship and talking about Star Trek began. So we got to go through Star Trek Picard and talk about it through text, mostly, with occasional conversations in person about the series. And it was really cool to be able to do that. And, I know for you, I was one of the first gay geeks who liked Star Trek. And for me, you were the one that I talked to about it the most. But I had only recently, prior to really meeting you, found out that some of my other friends were also Star Trek fans. So that was also something that was really important to me, is to put our voices out there so that people like us, part of the LGBTQIA community, can find community with other gay geeks or, LGBTQ geeks. And I think that was really important to put that voice out there and to share our perspective. Obviously, it's been an exciting couple of years for us. We've gotten a gay couple on Star Trek Discovery, which was amazing, and certainly gave us all hope for the future. And then towards the end of Picard, we were all picking up on some unusual vibes between Raffi and Seven.
Which I have notes for, which I definitely have thoughts on, which we do explore in our Picard podcast episode.
Right.
But yes, do continue.
Yeah, so it's a great time. We're seeing more representation in sci-fi, which is great in a lot of respects. And so I think it was time to contribute to the voices out there talking about it. And hopefully my idea behind all of this was reaching those people who may feel alone are part of the LGBTQ community and who don't really have other people to talk to Star Trek about. And so we want to be those people that you talk to Star Trek about, or you listen to us talk about it and you interact with us through various modes of communication. And possibly eventually in the future, we'll be able to meet people in person at future events, possibly.
Our 2 fans.
What's
maybe
that?
3 fans. I said maybe our 2 or 3 fans.
I think we might have
We'll be in Vegas. Like, oh, hey, I see you. Thanks for listening. 1 of 3.
1 of 3 people. Well, we'll have a small meetup and just enjoy it. But I think that was really important. So that's why we're here. We're here to contribute our voices to those people talking about Star Trek. And we've got a lot of Star Trek to watch. We've obviously enjoyed talking about it, just the 2 of us. So we hope you'll be able to experience that as a genuine enthusiasm. We are excited, and we want to share that excitement, and we want to hear your excitement as well. So that was a little bit about the genesis of this whole podcast.
Yeah. And, just to reiterate what you're saying, I think that when you first came to me, and as you mentioned, I had to think about a little bit, because I'm not usually the one, even though I work in marketing, I'm not usually one to put myself out there. Even on Twitter, I'm very inactive, because honestly, sometimes, especially in these kind of social media environments, things can get so toxic and combative. I have opinions, but I don't need to put my opinion out there and then for my ass to essentially get handed to me in some weird fashion in a way that I'm not even looking for. So, I'm usually very reluctant to put myself out there digitally, unless it's something that's very casual, very frivolous. So when you came to me with this idea, I did have to think about it a little bit. I obviously love Star Trek, and I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about it, as you know. But for me to then put that into a format for people to consume and listen to, that was something that I had to really think about. And ultimately, what you're saying in regard to the diversity element, you are definitely the first gay Star Trek fan I've really ever met, to be honest. And I've met even I would say the Star Trek fans I've met organically have been very limited. And most of them are pretty casual viewers. They'll have seen a few episodes here and there, versus someone that has read the Star Trek Next Generation technical manual. That's another level of fandom that is niche. And I feel that those are kind of the Star Trek fans that you and I are. But then to add to another circle and the Venn diagram is this LGBTQ IA plus element, which is even more niche. And I thought that we had, just based upon the intersection of our interests and of our backgrounds, something unique to contribute to the conversation. So I was like, okay, I can buy into this. I think that we can bring a unique perspective to the conversation. And look, that doesn't necessarily mean that every single episode we're going to be like, what is the perspective of a LGBTQIA plus person, on this episode? It's not so much that. I think that ultimately we are just fans enjoying Star Trek, and we're here to talk about Star Trek. And once in a while, there is going to be that kind of angle and that kind of lens that we're going to discuss things through. But I think that even kind of just having that kind of different perspective and having that different kind of voice, even if at the end of the day, there's only so many things that we can say about Encounter at Farpoint, because there's only so many things you can say about Encounter at Farpoint. I think that it's still bringing a little bit more diversity to the mix. And ultimately, as you're saying, Mike, that's what we're here to do.
There we go. So why don't you tell people a little bit about what to expect from our episodes?
Yeah, so essentially our episodes have evolved a great deal from when we first started them in March. And the first episode that we're going to release is actually when we decided to start this podcast. So we are going to be doing an episode on the finale of Star Trek Picard, and also another episode that's looking at season 1 of Picard as a whole. And then we get into the groove of things, and every episode is going to have a very basic layout and structure. At the center of each episode, we're going to be talking about one episode of Star Trek that we've decided to watch. And sometimes that could be, when Lower Decks starts up, that's going to be an episode of Lower Decks. But we're also going to be peppering in potentially some other episodes that we decided to watch here and there, or we were inspired to watch because of whatever reason. But that is going to be at the center of each episode, and we would love for all our listeners, all 3 of you, to follow along, to watch the episode, and then to hear us banter about it. But besides talking about the episode, we're also going to talk a little bit about what other things we're Star Trekking, whether that be a news item that we're excited about, another new series that CBS All Access decides to launch, anything along those lines. Mike, you and I both read Star Trek novels. Well, you listen to Star Trek novels. I read Star Trek novels.
Right, yeah.
So, there might be a little bit of that. Sometimes we'll just turn on Hulu or Netflix or Amazon Prime, and we'll just decide to rewatch a movie, like you rewatched the motion picture recently.
Right, exactly.
I recently rewatched Star Trek 6 on Discover Country recently, just because it was my 40th time, and I just had to watch it again.
And you also just finished a whole rewatch of Deep Space Nine. So
that is true.
From beginning to end. So
I rewatched all of DS9 for those of you viewers, listeners that are interested to know. I was like, it's been so long. It's been literally over 20 years since I have seen DS9. So why don't I watch it again? And I rewatched the whole thing from start to finish in 3 months. I did skip over or fast forward the Vic Fontaine episodes because I can't. But, other than that, I watched every single episode, yes. And this is a whole other episode of podcast, but then I watched the What We Left Behind documentary, and that was great.
Yeah, exactly. That's a nice cap on watching that whole season. So
it was like, I watched it like a week after I finished all 7 seasons of DS9, so it was very fresh in my mind. So when they were talking about this moment or that moment, I was like, I know what you're talking about because I just watched it 2 weeks ago. So, yeah.
There you go. Yeah. And actually, I supported that on that documentary on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. Probably Kickstarter, most likely.
I don't remember which one they used.
So I got to watch it, stream it early when it first premiered, which was nice. But I haven't watched it since then. So
it was so good.
It was great.
So anyway, yes, we'll talk about what we Star Trek for the week. We're talking our episodic focused commentary will be called Spilling the Trek. That's that segment. Then we usually go into a little bit of off topic. So what other sci-fi, fantasy, I'm also a gamer. So we'll talk about some like random off topic stuff that we're doing or consuming. And then finally, we talk a little bit about ourselves and how we're each doing personally in our personal lives, whether that is our relationships, dating life, whatever. And that segment is called Dishing with Deanna. So obviously, we want to go to Counselor Troy's office and share our feelings and share what's going on in our lives.
There we go. So, and she's a great listener. So
yeah. And she knows if we're lying. So
and there you go. Yeah. I think, and also since you talked about Deep Space Nine, I think both of our favorite series is Deep Space Nine, but the genesis of this podcast really started with Picard. Mm-hmm. And from there, what we decided to do is we watched obviously we watched season 1 of Picard together, but then we went back and, when we were recording these as episodes we picked to talk about in Spilling the Trek, we kind of went back to the beginning. Well, the beginning for me, the not so beginning for you. And to further explain that, first and foremost, we're both Next Generation fans. Mm-hmm. We grew up with that. That is our first new series that we got to see live aired on TV. Now I got to see Encounter at Farpoint from the start, but I was a Star Trek fan before that because growing up, my family would go up to my grandmother's on the weekends, and Friday night dinner would be myself and my Uncle John in the living room at my Nana's house having dinner and watching Star Trek. So he is responsible for getting me into Star Trek back then, but that was obviously reruns of the original series, which I did enjoy, and that started my fandom and started my book collecting. I collected all of the pocket books for a really long time.
I have so many of those pocket books. They're like,
yeah, I know. I
piles of them at my parents' house.
Yep, mine are in storage as well. So those were great. That was before Star Trek was really in comics again. I take that back. There was always I think DC put out a Star Trek comic for a while.
Yeah, they had like a few like random like crossovers with like X-Men or something, right? Like,
yeah, well, I think that was part of it. But they also had an ongoing Star Trek series and then an ongoing Star Trek Next Generation series. So I did collect those comics as well.
I've never even read those.
Yeah.
Oh.
I will.
How about that?
I mean, the artwork leaves a lot to be desired and is not up to standards of what today's comic books are. But so that's sort of where my fandom started. But I get to see Star Trek from the beginning. You, on the other hand, joined Next Generation and actually in season 3. Yes.
Yeah.
So
I started a little bit later, and then I was able to watch some of the older episodes when they did reruns, or I actually bought them on VHS. And it was outrageous. It was like one VHS tape for one episode was like $15. It was like outrageous.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was like
$14.95. I think the longer 2-part episodes were like $19.99.
Yeah, it was like crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But eventually I went back, but I basically started at what I would consider the golden age of TNG when things really got into a groove. So then going back to Encounter at Farpoint was admittedly difficult, but still critical viewing.
You came on when they had real uniforms, and I watched when they wore the spandex and the.
It just looks so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And apparently, it was giving the crew like back problems.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that was like part of the issue.
That,
yeah.
But I also that's funny. That reminded me suddenly. I did also collect the Star Trek: The Next Generation magazine, so which came out every couple of months, I would say, and covered a certain number of episodes. So I had that collection for a while.
So did you ever collect Communicator, or was that? What did you just
Communicator was you had to pay for a subscription, right? Because it was like part of the Star Trek fan club, and I never joined the official Star Trek fan club.
Wait, was I part of the Star Trek fan club?
Yeah,
I don't remember that. I remember paying for the magazine. I don't remember subscribing.
Yeah, I mean, eventually it finally was on sale at Barnes and Noble or Borders or whatever. But pretty sure like that was an exclusive to the fan club for a while, so I never really did that. But I would go.
It was a great magazine. I loved it.
It was.
I treasured those.
And I treasured the Next Generation and then the Deep Space Nine magazines. I don't remember collecting the Voyager ones, but I was much older.
You're not even a big Voyager fan.
I am not a big Voyager fan. It's a fine, perfectly fine. It's Star Trek, and I still like it. It's not my favorite.
It has its ups and downs.
It does have its ups and downs. I do like some of the characters, and less, but I think that's part of also this. Like, we have very differing opinions on characters and things, and series, I imagine that our listeners do as well. So it's always fun to kind of debate these things with someone else who cares as much about Star Trek as you and I do. So that's sort of the fun of it. And so so after we did watch season 1 of Picard together and talk about it, we went back to the beginning and we did an episode on Farpoint Station on I can't even think of the episode now. Farpoint Station.
Encounter at Farpoint?
Encounter at Farpoint. Thank you.
Wow. I had like a brain freeze.
I did have a brain freeze. Yes.
Brain freeze. Brain fart.
Brain fart there, yes. And
Yeah.
so we'll kind of take you through seasons 1 and 2 with some episodes, which we'll probably release as bonus episodes because with 23 weeks of new Trek coming out, we're going to have a lot to talk about. And so we'll probably go back and release some of these as historical documents of our time in coronavirus lockdown. So look forward to those. And that's really the evolution of our podcast. And it got us to the point where when I reached out to Bill and Dan, for mentoring. I just wanted to ask them some questions about podcasting and get some advice on a few things that we were talking about. And I had a Zoom call with Bill, and he didn't have a lot of feedback for me. The feedback ended up
I'm sure he had like mental notes, but he was trying to be nice.
Maybe. I mean, he said we had a good foundation, and we'd like you to join our network. And I was like, what?
You were like, what? And I was like, what? That's because I barely knew who they were.
Yeah, you didn't know who they were.
Oh, that's great, but what?
What does that mean? Yeah. I mean, I was utterly speechless at that, and I'm sure Bill remembers that. And that was a Tuesday night in July. And,
okay, remember it down to the minute as well.
I think we had a call at 8:00 at night. Yeah. And it was after my vacation to the Finger Lakes with Dennis. So, yeah, I can probably pinpoint very quickly when this call happened. So,
well, I remember getting the text from you, and you were very excited. I was like, "Oh, cool!"
I was a text saying, "I'm so excited. Can I call you?" So, and
right.
You're like,
that's right. It was a call. It's all hazy to me.
Yeah. So now we're on this new adventure, but we've got some great episodes that cover Next Generation season 1 and 2, some key episodes through that that really play into what led to Picard, the series. And then we also sprinkled in a couple of episodes on we jumped ahead to season 7 when Lower Decks was announced, and we watched the Lower Decks episode of Next Generation. And then we also, at the beginning of June, we decided to pick up Deep Space Nine: Far Beyond the Stars because of everything that was kind of going on in the world with all of the protests in the United States.
So there is a rhyme and reason to how we picked the episodes.
Right.
If you were to look at the list and you don't have the context, and I'm like, what's happening? But there is a rhyme and reason to everything that we selected. So.
Yes, there is. So that's So that's kind of the evolution of our podcast, and a little bit about us as gay geeks who love to talk about this stuff. We really are excited about all of this, and part of that excitement is that hopefully we get to talk to people like us who are looking for fellow fans to discuss Star Trek. And we hope that you'll reach out to us and let us know what you think of our brand spanking new shiny podcast. This is a journey, so we do not expect please do not.
We don't expect all the feedback to be positive. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I mean, we expect there to be some constructive feedback presented in a positive
way,
manner.
positive spin.
Yes. And we're happy to hear that because we do want to get better. We do want to give the fans what they want, but we love talking about Star Trek, and so we're excited to see how this progresses and evolves. And so that's a little bit about us. And so
if you guys want to give us constructive feedback or follow along with us, we are on social media on Instagram and Twitter. Handles are at Deep Space Pride. And you can also email us at deepspacepride@gmail.com. We cannot guarantee that we will respond to every email. The emails
we will do our best.
The three of you. But we will do our best. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so we hope that you'll come along on this journey with us and explore Star Trek from an LGBTQIA perspective, but also two fans who love to geek out about this stuff. And we could go on and on. In fact, right before we started recording this, we were already geeking out about the music of Star Trek. So, and the intro sequences.
Debating the intro sequences.
We were debating it. Yeah.
series,
So
yes.
we have that as a future idea for an episode. So we'll probably release that in the future. But if you have other ideas about what we should talk about, episodes or key episodes that you really love, then send them to us and maybe we'll be able to fit them into the schedule. But we're
no
excited.
Promises. No promises.
But we hope that you'll come along on this journey with us, and we look forward to talking to you in the next podcast.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Deep Space Pride is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
Coconut.